Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Ways and Means Committee meeting of May 19th, 2022. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderwoman Evans,
Present.
Chairwoman Davis.
Present.
7 present, you have quorum.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't look yet. Did you have the minutes ready from yesterday?
No, ma'am, we did not.
We have plenty of time to review them in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Today's agenda, of course, is we are reviewing our budget for the next fiscal year. And the department that's before us today is public safety. As I look at those who will be speaking, where am I at here? Here we are. So I'd like to ask if Heather Taylor is available.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. So you're going to be conducting today's meeting as far as identifying the next speaker for your department that you'd like to have speak. Even though we have a list before us, if you have to adjust it or and call someone different, contrary to the list, feel free to do that, and we shall follow your lead. So if you don't mind, could you open, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, I want to state that Chief Hayden and Colonel and Chief Sack are both trying to log in as panelists, so they should be on shortly. The department, and I'm here representing Dr. Isom for the Department of Public Safety. We can start with the director's office, but we also have online Jennifer Clemens Abdullah from the Corrections Commissioner. We also have Miles McDonald from Excise. And I believe we have I'm also here representing Neighborhood Stabilization Team. I believe they're on today as well in the absence of their director. So I will start with the director's office, if that's okay, and be advised, this is my first time going before Ways and Means. So if I fumble something, please forgive me, Madam Chair.
Oh, believe me, it's not that. All you have to do is just tell the story, who you are, what you do, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to start with the department, the director's office with the Department of Public Safety. So this budget year, we have 11 authorized positions. This budget year, for the next fiscal year, we added a program manager 2, a safety officer 3, and a public information officer 2. Currently, for the program manager in particular, I'll start there. That position was needed because we have under the department, the director's office, the YES program, which is a federally funded grant program. We also have under the Department of Public Safety with the Edward Byrne JAG grant. This year we were awarded $450,000 for that grant. With that grant comes Night Watch. The Night Watch program is a juvenile night watch program where we have co-responders that respond to calls for juveniles who have been adjudicated. That's grant funded as well. We also fund 2, this year we're funding 2 problem property attorneys to assist our elected officials in your constituents and our employees with problem properties throughout the city of St. Louis. The additional problem properties attorney will be added to North Patrol in particular. We have one that's south. So that is to assist with the calls that we receive for problem properties in your wards. Also, with that grant, we are funding some things with that grant that includes DNA to assist SLMPD with DNA and some other things. With this program manager, they'll be responsible for overseeing this program and assisting with overseeing, doing the audits and the checks on this. We also have a lot of community outreach that we're trying to begin under the Department of Public Safety and to assist the community with connecting with public safety better. Violence prevention is always at the top of that as well. So the program manager too, we needed a high level position there to oversee these programs and also to assist other areas on behalf of the Department of Public Safety, especially when you have cure violence as well. It's not under us, but we have to also connect with them. So there was a need for that. And the safety officer 3 position, in light of losing a fireman, we wanted to have someone in-house that reviews safety protocols with our police, between our police department and our fire department. We have an extensive staffing, and the issues that are critical oftentimes to their daily duties involve safety. Corrections department as well. Not so much the corrections division. I believe they had one added to their budget. However, we want to make sure that the person assigned to the Department of Public Safety is a high level position that's going to oversee all of the safety officers under the Department of Public Safety. They will assist neighborhood stabilization team as well. They have safety needs there as well because they respond to, or neighborhood improvement specialists respond to calls or respond to their areas generally by themselves. So we're assessing that for a safety need, for prevention. And overall is to save money, to save the city money. With department accidents, we're looking into how we can address department accidents in the line of duty deaths. In particular, when there's an accident, there is the possibility of workman's compensation with that. So the safety officer will be heavily involved in that process within the Department of Public Safety. The Public Information Officer 2, we added that position based off of the daily needs with Dr. Isom involving requests from the media to give statements. We want to also start to outline when we have critical incidents, to have someone that's high level, highly functioning with the ability to connect with technology to kind of give a visual depiction of some of the incidents that are occurring, similar to how St. Louis County does when they have a review after an officer involved shooting or a critical incident. So this position is a high level position that we added to the budget. So those are the 3 positions. Also the goal, and I know that many of our elected officials or aldermen and alderwomen and more have mentioned the need for the Department of Public Safety to have 2 deputy public safety directors. The point of that is to divide the duties so that we can, with 3,500 people, we want to separate the duties between the 2 deputy public safety directors. I think I've touched on probably most of the significant changes that have happened under this next fiscal year. And I don't know if you want me to, but I can move on to the neighborhood stabilization team as well. But I guess I'll go backtrack. In this budget, we also requested funds for computers, supplies with the hiring of the 3 extra staff. Those items weren't granted, but right now, even with our legal fees within the department, under the Department of Public Safety Director's budget, we are allotted $3,000. We are going to definitely surpass that with problem property hearings, with the closing of rain, those type of hearings, they take up a lot of funds. And so, those in the budget, that some of these things weren't granted in there. But I can move on to the neighborhood stabilization team because I'm going to be the representative there as well. Significant one of, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Could you hold on for just a second? Because what I'd like to do is I want to let the committee see if they have any questions on what you've presented. and then we'll go to the next area, okay?
Yes,
So, Alderman Boyd, are you with us yet? No, okay. So sorry. Alderman Vaccaro?
Yeah, Heather, I'm maybe, so you don't have the money to have the hearings, is that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
we're going to run out. We're likely going to run out with their significant, with the hiring of Dr. Isom and myself, we have looked into having a problem properties task force. And it's a task force with convening with problem properties attorneys, where we're taking a review into the areas in your wards where you have consistent calls for violence at businesses and other areas, to significantly address those areas collectively. But there are funds associated with the hearing, calling the hearing officer.
So how much money in addition are you looking for?
I think the maximum is 5,000 for that. And I think we were.
Well, I mean,
five. Go ahead, sir.
are you looking for this committee to try to find more funding for this so that it's not in overtime? In other words, what dollar amount are you looking for? Because what we do is we try to move money around. If something seems very important, we want to maybe take money from one area and move it to another. If it makes sense that something that's more important. So
Yes, sir.
What dollar amount are you looking for?
So we would like to get that up to the maximum instead of the 3,000, to have that at 5,000, because we believe that we're going to meet that 5,000 mark this year.
And why is the maximum only 5,000? It sounds to me like it could require a lot more than 5,000.
I don't know. That is definitely a budget question that I am not qualified to answer. That's for sure.
Is Paul Payne on the call with us? Paul should be here.
Yes, Alderman, I'm here.
Paul, why are they only allowed a maximum of 5,000? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I missed the nuance of that discussion. I'm not quite sure what the 5,000 is referencing.
The legal services.
Well, it's per case. It's not for the total budget. It's per case.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm
And
not.
it's quite adequate. It's quite adequate. The 5,000 is.
Yeah,
Okay,
that I'm not privy to in terms of the details of how what the rules are on the cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if we move it up to the 5,000, what's the total amount difference that we're going to have to come up with to make this possible? I guess that's what I'm getting at. As we're looking at different things, how do we get that money? You know, how do we do that? You know, obviously we have to take away from one area to move to another, but
Which line item are we specifically referencing, Heather?
So it's going to be 5660000 legal services.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's. I would say if we're following, given the amount of money you're talking about, you're saying you wanted to get back up to $5,000. I mean, failing anything else, you probably do a transfer during the fiscal year to make sure you get it. I mean, this is not something worth.
Yeah, that's how we
so-
handled it in the past. Yeah.
And actually with that, so within our budget here as well, we've hired new staff in between the budget season. So we've added staff as well. So some of the salary savings that we could have had, we're likely not going to have there as well. So, you know, as far as a transfer, the money there will be kind of difficult with the hiring of new staff and the salaries.
My only suggestion was that given that you're only talking about $2,000 difference, if you want, again, it's up to you in terms of how you want to make recommendations, but.
And we're gonna, I can pretty much guarantee we're gonna go over that with the hearings. So the 5,000, and we're gonna go over that amount. I'm quite certain of that.
So I can slightly speak to this as well. I'm sorry. I hope it's okay to jump in here. We're actually currently working with the city councilor's office to have them give us a better understanding of how much money they will spend. They're actually kind of readjusting their program. So in years past, the 3,000 has definitely been okay and it has not been met. But within the past 2 to 3 months, maybe they've readjusted their program a bit. So in I think March through April alone, there was $1,400 in expenses there. So we're still working with them to get an idea of what their workload looks like and how much they plan on scheduling. But the $5,000 was more in reference to the ordinance that, says after, $5,000 for consulting fees, you need to get together a committee, et cetera. So, but it looks like right now that it probably will exceed, as Phil said, $5,000.
So if it's gonna exceed the 5,000, excuse me, and then I'll move on from this, then do we need to get together and this might be a question for Lou Golly. Do we need to get together and change that ordinance?
No,
The chairwoman thinks 5,000 is plenty.
no. I agree with Paul Payne. You see, within that budget, they have a number of line items. If they need just for 1 month or that they might run over, there are plenty of ways they can do that themselves for an adjustment. They may not spend all their money for travel. They may not spend all their money for other small line items. But I guarantee you that over the years, it has fluctuated and rarely will it ever go over the 5,000. And because we're having probably a plus period right now, because we're really cracking down on all the problems we have, you still have room in your budget if you manage to go over that 5,000 a month. And so I really feel comfortable about it. I honestly do.
Well, the only thing I could say to even just to Heather is at some point later, if we see it's not working, you should get back with somebody and we should try to make adjustments.
Only after the budget. So within your department, you have a lot of latitude on, and I'm going to hush and let Paul Payne explain that particular thing, the opportunity to transfer.
I don't know, Paul.
Yes, that is true. I again, and I don't want to minimize the particular line items, but yeah, you sort of pick the ones that you want to focus on and go forward. Yeah, if that's an issue, and as Heather, I'm sure would appreciate, is that if it gets to that point, you could during the fiscal year approve a transfer and address that. After a certain point, I mean, again, if you're talking about $10,000 or $20,000, maybe then you got an issue and you want to focus and say, all right, how do we fix that? But if you're talking a couple grand here or there, that's typical kind of stuff where you would fix it with a budget transfer during the fiscal year.
Okay, well, I just.
And there's no hard fast rule to that, but that's just how typically.
Right. No, well, if they get to an issue later, then, I really think we'd look at it, make an adjustment. The only reason I say that is this problem property stuff. And it, even over here in my neighborhood where everybody thinks, there is no such thing as a problem property. We have them here too, so maybe not as many, but certainly we'd like to see them dealt with. So I'm going to shut up and let this meeting move on. It's going to be a long meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderwoman Howard.
I just want a little clarification. You ran through this rather quickly, and I just need some clarification. On the problem property attorneys, we always had problem property attorneys. We are hiring more? Is that what you said? Or,
Yes, so traditionally, North St. Louis has had probably about 3 times the number of problem property complaints that have come in. There is one attorney that's assigned to North Patrol, and in North Patrol, there's been one property that has been shut down despite numerous complaints from city residents and constituents there. With this JAG grant for about a decade, and I may be wrong on the time frame, and Matt Moe would know more, the length of it, has funded a problem property attorney in South St. Louis, but there hasn't been one assigned to North St. Louis, which traditionally has more calls in even central parts of St. Louis that have had more calls for problem properties. And so the goal of that with the JAG was to fund 2, so that we can assist you with the neighborhoods and your constituents with having better service from the Department of Public Safety.
and I would also add that we need the problem property officers to have more latitude in clearing these properties out where people are. And that's a conversation for another day. So there will be one assigned to North, one assigned to South. And I guess
Yes.
they'll flow
Yes, ma'am.
back and forth as the need arises. In other words, they won't strictly be in one area or the other. Is that as the
Yes, it
load?
will be the strictly in North St. Louis because of the sheer call volume of problem properties. They're at least double those that are in South, and we have one funded already that's in South. So we want to just kind of make it well-rounded.
Do we have officers in all of the problem property officers in all of the areas?
We have some in some of the areas because there's the priority always is going to be violent crime. So where the officers are stationed, there are some officers in South, Central, and North. Generally about 1 to 2 officers that are assigned in those areas to address problem properties, but sometimes they're pulled away. If there is a homicide, if there is a non-fatal shooting, a victim of a sexual assault, and we need coverage, we will pull them away from non-violent incidents, even if they're problem property officers, to go respond to those areas.
But I think they do a wonderful job and they're very helpful in helping resolve these issues, working in concert with the neighborhood stabilization officers.
Absolutely,
So,
yes, ma'am.
And then on the $3,000 to $5,000, just for clarification, and maybe this is a question for Ms. Fielder, is that per case they handle, or is that per month, or what is that money actually spent on? I guess that's what I need to know. I'm very confused about that.
So I am new and I am getting to learn this as well. But for my conversation with the city councilor's office, it varies depending on what needs to be done with the case. So this is, I guess, officer that is kind of like a mediator between the two. And depending on what is happening with the case and what work he has to do, it seems to be an hourly fee. So like I said, from mid-March through all of April, his fees were $1,400 and some change just for that time period alone. So, and now like 8 months before that, there was about $2,800 in expenses. So as you can see, I mean, there's been this change recently and there's a lot there. So we're planning on meeting with the city councilor's office on Monday to try to get a better estimate of how much might be needed moving forward.
And so with this, also, if I may add, ma'am, that this is in regard to the nuisance ordinance that's in place right now. So the nuisance ordinance in there, the writing in there is about having a hearing officer. So in that nuisance ordinance, it's covered in there for the hearing officer.
Yes, very familiar with that. We've used that several times. And then I guess my other question is about the public information officers. You touched on that. Can you explain, there's listing in your budget for 3 different public information. There's a public information officer 2, a public information manager, and a public information officer 1. And you said some were unfunded.
We originally asked for a public information manager so that we could manage all of the public information officers that are under the Department of Public Safety. We have one that's in the police department, of course. We have two that are in the police department. We also have one that's with the fire department, and we had one under our budget that was not assigned to the Department of Public Safety. When we arrived, that PIO was assigned to the mayor's office. So what we did is that we believe that with the sheer number of calls and requests that come in for Dr. Isom, we wanted to have a manager to assist with managing all of them so that we're all connected and communicating together when we're giving statements about violence or whatever the case may be. And that position, we didn't get that. Our PIO 1, Kathy is in the police department now under their budget and works out of the mayor's office. So what we did is that we compromised and we ended up getting a PIO 2, which is sufficient to do the duties with what we need them to do. But we did prefer a public information manager.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say. It appears to me that you have public information officers in the police and fire department.
Yes, we do.
That was duplicative. So that's all I have. I have another concern, but I'll take care of that offline because it doesn't really have to do with budget. So we'll be in touch with that as soon as I have more information. So thank you very much for being here today and explaining what's going on in the public safety department. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Welcome, ma'am.
Okay. Woman Spencer. Alderwoman.
Chairwoman Davis.
Yes.
I
You have any questions?
do. Thank you so much. I was having some technical difficulties for a half second. I missed the very beginning. My apologies here. Where are we just talking about the direct? I know I heard Director Taylor talk about all the different departments here today, but we're just focusing on the office of the Public Safety Director. Is that right now?
You are correct.
Okay. I have some additional questions about the additional aspects of the budget, but for right now, I think I'll defer to when we get to those parts of the public safety departments. So I'll defer to that for the time being. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd.
I'm just listening. Thank you.
All right. Alderman Oldenburg.
Nothing right now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions right now.
Okay. Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions at this time. I as well am listening. So none at this time.
Thank you. And so I wanted to go back.
Madam Chair, excuse me, I do have one question. If you don't mind, I tried to raise my hand there, but it wasn't maybe visible.
Okay, it just popped up. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Director Taylor, if you could, I know you talked about the nuisance officers and adding one to North Patrol. Can you, and how the JAG grant kind of funds one here on the south side. Can you walk us through the total number of nuisance officers? I know, for example, I think in my district, 3rd district, we have one for the district. If I'm correct there, Officer Aaron Hine is our nuisance officer here. But for the citywide, can you kind of talk to us and explain to us how many nuisance officers we have and how many this additional budget will kind of allow us to have from a broad perspective?
And I will defer to Chief Hayden with the total number, but this is for a nuisance attorney. So the addition with the JAG Edward Byrne grant, federal grant, is for an additional nuisance attorney. So we fund the attorney that's in South St. Louis already. And I believe he has Dutchtown, excuse me, and Mount Pleasant. So those are the two areas that he's really focused on, is Dutchtown and Mount Pleasant. So the JAG grant is funding an additional attorney, not an officer, but Chief Hayden or Colonel or Chief Sack can advise on the total number, because I may give you the wrong name in the number. And I saw Chief Hayden logged in here.
It would be so helpful just to kind of understand how many attorneys we have working on this, whether they're working with the city councilor's office, or if they're under the police department, kind of where they sit, and how, kind of how many we have total.
As far as the officers go, ma'am, there's 2 officers in each area station. And they work together, one from generally each district. But because they work out of a station, they're able to assist one another with the load that they have. And then they work closely with the city councilor's office. And of course, they, assign people as they do. They represent us in those cases and assist us. So it's just the number that they have available. I understand they added another attorney to kind of manage those operations so we can be more efficient and more timely in our response to citizen complaints. But that's out of the city councilor's office. But we do have 2 officers in each area station that address problem properties.
They appreciate that. Thank you, Chief Sack. If I understand correctly, each district has 2 problem properties officers.
Each station,
Station
north,
has,
south, and central has
Right.
2 officers. So there's a total of 6.
So-
But
essentially 1 per district.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's the officers. And then from the attorney side, they're with the city councilor's office, and it's kind of whatever they're not specifically assigned to that at this point.
That's in the process of being reorganized by the Department of Public Safety. They had a large meeting a while ago. They did some training for our officers, not just our problem properties officers, but our D platoon officers, which are just a handful per district to kind of, like the firemen, kind of address particular issues that might be occurring in a district. But they attended it as well, so that the captains and the major at the area stations can draw in those additional resources, those D platoon officers as well. But the Department of Public Safety hosted a training session for us, and they had an opportunity then to meet and work with some of the city councilors. And I think they're going to be specifically assigned out, but that's something that the city councilors would be more familiar with.
And so the city councilors would be able to provide the number of attorneys that address problem properties, but for under our budget, as far as not exactly under our budget, I guess I need to clarify that. They are under the city councilor's budget, these 2 attorneys. We will change that next year and have them assigned directly under our budget. That's what we're going for. But they do come from the JAG grant that comes from the Department of Public Safety. Department of Public Safety applies for that grant every year. This year we received the award. We decided to add an additional problem properties attorney based off of the number of calls that are coming in from your constituents, from the public about problem businesses, problem properties where there's been a number of violent crimes happening. So that's our attempt to address those issues. We have one assigned south, so we wanted one to be assigned north, where the calls for service there for problem properties are generally double. So we wanted to assist where we could for officers, for elected officials, for your constituents to address that problem property concern.
I appreciate the clarification and the opportunity to kind of talk through this. I want to commend you for being proactive and additional manpower there, representing the Dutchtown, Mount Pleasant area that you identified. That's my district. I think at any given time have at least 200 to 300 problem properties in the 20th ward alone. And it is such a debilitating scenario to live next to, or certainly within the same building as a problem property, and recognizing that we don't currently have enough resources to adequately address them. Making these additions, I think, could certainly help. I am fully supportive of increasing the capacity in that realm, because it can often address problems before they fully materialize, and certainly are an issue, not just of public safety, but of just quality of life, especially for those who don't have the financial capacity to move. It really can be devastating. So thank you so much. I have no further questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I didn't have anything in particular that I had a question for, because as we're moving forward in the next 6 to 8 months, we're all going to come back together on this budget, and we'll be doing a lot of adjustment as we receive additional federal funds, and as we look at how some of the new operations that have been suggested are operating. So I do appreciate that thought process that you have as far as trying to have enough staff to deal with problems, because crime escalates from the small crime, and problem properties truly create larger crimes. So I'm happy to hear that. What I'd like to do is ask for you to continue, Heather, and please introduce your next presenter.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair,
Oh, I see your hand. Go ahead.
may I ask something before we move further along? What I wanted to ask was, am I understanding that you have 2 area stations, one south and one central? Who manages the complaints that come out of the north side?
So the north side is for its problem properties attorneys? Is that? Yes. Okay, we have Ms. Sue Phelps, who is a North Patrol problem properties attorney. She probably has she hands down has the most number of problem properties to address. So we're adding for the next fiscal year an additional attorney to assist with the problem properties demands that are there, and to also fill in where they believe they're needed outside of North St. Louis. But we believe that the majority of their need will remain in North St. Louis with that second attorney for fiscal year 23.
Okay, that was what I was I was grappling with that to understand, why is it that we on the north side did not have an attorney?
Well, we've always had just one each, one for North, one for Central Patrol, and one for South. But as you know, things have truly escalated, most especially the last 3 years. And there's a definite need for an additional one at North Central, no doubt.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Heather, well, maybe we should use protocol here. Hold on a second.
Yes, ma'am.
So Chief Hayden has joined us, and is it Lieutenant Colonel Zach?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Chief Hayden, would you like to make some comments before we go on to the other departments that are going to present?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So as you mentioned, sitting here with me is recently appointed interim Chief Colonel Mike Sack. He's here, and I also have the fiscal manager of the police department, Dave Daniels, here with me, so we can help answer, that both of them can help answer some of the questions you may have. Overall, our operating budget, not including any grant funds, is relatively flat, with an increase of less than 3%. Our general fund commission authorized total remains the same. And like many other major cities, we are facing difficulties with recruitment and retaining officers. We are currently down 117 officers. and so obviously I believe that compensation is something that needs to be addressed at some point. We have 35 recruits in the academy, and we have a class starting Monday, this coming Monday. We've added a net total of 9 civilian positions to address shortfalls in manpower and technical service and administrative functions. And then, of course, with the inflation with fuel, those prices continue to remain high. The amount budgeted for the account 565500 internal service fund for gasoline will run over by as much as $1 million and will have to be covered by transfers from other accounts if there's no change in how the economy is going with respect to gas prices. Materials and supplies and rentals and leases have increased approximately 3.8%. Non-capital has increased due to the need for taser replacement and fleet equipment for items such as lights, sirens, truck vaults, cage partitions, and push bumpers. Capital equipment has increased due to a need to address an aging IT and communications infrastructure. And then contractual services have increased to maintain existing computer hardware, properly fund our existing billing for communication services, and maintaining the city services-wide radio system network, cover increased fuel costs, and fund the Regis services required by the department. I mentioned the additional civilian positions. They are systems development specialists, one in that position, government service analyst, 1, police planner, 2, 1, program coordinator, victim advocate, 1, mailroom supervisor, 1, police planner, 1, 2 in that position, administrative assistant, 1 in that position, forensic science technician, 2, and then messenger mailroom clerk, 1. So we're now available to answer any questions that anyone might have.
All right, thank you, sir. As we move forward with the next department to make a presentation, I want to ask the committee, based on Chief Hayden's statements, that you have made notes, and you can ask those questions after the next department presents. Go right ahead and introduce Heather.
Next, we'll have Jennifer Clemens Abdullah, the Commissioner of Corrections.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and everybody. I come to you to tell you in the Division of Corrections, our bottom line is basically the same as it was previous year. The biggest difference for us is the money we obtain from the federal government for housing their detainees. Since we don't have that or not getting that for FY23, that has increased our costs. Now you'll see there was a small increase related to food. We did an evaluation when I first got here, the food that is served to the inmate population, and there were some things that needed to be taken out to make it a more nutritious meal. So you'll see a slight increase there. But I'll go back, let me go back to the initial beginning. We have 198 authorized correctional officer positions. We have 65 vacancies. Due to some shortages, you'll see an increase when it comes to having to supplement with a security company to help us maintain the orderly running of the facilities. And that is under our contractual services. Now you'll see that we also requested 13 classification officers, and a safety officer and an information security officer, administrator. I can only describe the Division of Corrections should be a city within a city. And just like Ms. Taylor described having a safety officer and a PIO, we should be somewhat mimicking them, but also be a city within a city so we can operate within our own realm and get things resolved here. And the classification officers would help us process inmates, classify them accordingly and timely, and not just use CO1s or correctional officer 1s to do such a thing, which has been done as a past practice. We need those positions designated, and that's the reason why we wanted to create those. However, it doesn't affect our overall budget. Why? Because we still have the positions where we can navigate within our own budget to allocate those positions. The safety officer, of course, is to help us with maintaining our, fire and safety of the building. The information security will help us when it comes to oversight inquiries, alderman inquiries, or whatever, what have you. It will help make the transition a little bit more smoother for us and for you guys and for the city as well. We do ask for a 2.5% hazardous duty paid for corrections. And I think I spoke to some of the alder men and women that came a couple weeks ago. And for those of people that are not familiar with our operation, we are the first responders. And when I say we're the first responders, when an inmate has a heart attack, when an inmate has an overdose or an injury from being housed there and fighting with one another, having some type of discrepancy, we're usually the ones here first. So I would strongly encourage you guys to consider us for a hazardous duty. It is definitely needed. And just as with the police, we need our compensation reviewed and looked at upon, because we should be considered as law enforcement, because we do operate like a city within a city, and we have to do certain things to make sure everything is in compliance. As you guys know, the third floor, all the construction that's going on, we've come into some certain situations, and I say certain situations where we need certain supplies to be a certain way, such as chairs. We need to make sure that we have heavy duty, but so that we're able to defend against bed bugs and things like this. We need something that's correctional grade type thing. So you'll see us asking for those, and then as well as like tasers. Why? We need an alternative to the OC. The OC is for people that are asthmatic staff as well as inmates. We need something that is more beneficial to the population. We've had some disturbances, and statistically, usually in the summertime, we have a lot more encounters with the detainees. And I say encounters where people get, when it's hot outside, it just makes them agitated. So we need a better way to contain the population other than OC, because it's not good for the asthmatic staff and inmates. Overall, you'll look at it, the biggest difference is not having the federal detainees that supplement. So we're basically the same as the previous years, and I'll leave it open for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start with our committee for questioning. Alderman Boyd.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. I have no questions at this time.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Vaccaro.
I do. I have questions to both. Chief Hayden, as far as overtime, I know last year one of the things we did was cut the overtime budget. Did you guys stay within that budget, or how much over did we do on overtime? And maybe that's a Paul Payne question, but how much should we go over the overtime budget?
Here,
Our
so,
chief.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Sure, hi.
I won't give you a specific number for last year because I don't have that information in front of me. But this year, commission overtime will probably be about 3.8 million over budget.
Over what? That's what I'm saying. We, I knew then we needed the budget, because what happens when we under budget, then we got to find the money from other departments to make up for. It's just something that's always bothered me. We can say we can make it as low as we want, but it doesn't help because it's needed. So this year this budget year, you're 3.8 million so far, right?
No, this is an estimate for the entire year. However,
So even going to the 12 hours.
Well, that's really gonna start. When are you starting the 12 hours, Chief?
June the 10th.
Yeah, so that's really starting outside this current budget period.
Okay, so you're
Okay. And when we budget, as Paul will undoubtedly remind you, we also budget attrition savings. So like this, okay, this budget year, we're short. The chief said 117 police officers, but we're really short 133 commission officers. I budgeted attrition of 60 officers. And so while we have the amount budgeted that we have for commission overtime, when we don't fill those positions, what we've done is transfer money from salaries to overtime. So we're not as short as you think. And we are not borrowing, we have not borrowed from any department.
But then I mean, we could argue this, but then I would say then we're arguing that we're not, if we use that money for overtime, then that money's not being used to hire new officers.
Well,
I mean, the money needs to be available to hire, right?
we are hiring as fast as we can. However, over the past few years, we have not really made any progress in filling all our vacancies. Okay, so it's not that we are not trying as an organization to fill vacancies. It's simply that, the position of police officer is not as attractive as it used to be. And there is also an issue with the compensation for police officers. And so we are trying to fill the vacancies as quickly as possible.
I understand that. I'm arguing actually for you, not against you, that more money needs to be put in. Has been my argument. And my argument is not against you, it's with you. But I'm just saying, if you take what you said and said, oh, well, we use the money to pay overtime because we got officers we haven't hired, then logically you would say, okay, then we don't have the money. If everybody came tomorrow and decided, gee, I want to be a policeman, but we spent all that money on overtime, that's my argument, that we should be trying to stay within a budget and actually budget what's right. Anyway, we can argue, but I appreciate the answer that we're running, will be about 3.8 million over what was budgeted for overtime. That money will be spent. And I have no problem with that. I'm just saying that we need to make sure to put enough money in for overtime, not enough. My other thing, and it doesn't have to do with the police department, but with corrections. So one of the things that came up, and I saw the mayor's spokesman out there saying that at CJC or across the street, one of the arguments was, at least at the workhouse, you can go outside, which I think that what you want to call the workhouse is a much better facility. But having said that, one of the spokesmen from the mayor's office said, we are going to work out a way for the prisoners to have outside time. Have we done that? And that's to the director of corrections.
Well, as that relates to the budget, it doesn't. But no, outside time, it won't be a possibility at CJC unless you put into the budget to build something on the roof. And I say something on the roof because I've seen that before. But as far as just outside time, no, sir.
And well, it's somewhat related to the budget because our if we're going to, they said they were going to figure a way to do it. So I figured that would tie into the budget, whether they're taking people out one by one for an hour or something. I don't know. I'm not the one who made the statement.
I'm not either. So I don't know who would, because when you do such a thing, when you make such a statement, you would think that when you wanted to have some outside time, you would follow it up with some type of accommodation or ways to do it. That was never presented to me, and I don't want a Monday morning quarterback. However, I will say this from my experience running a jail or being inside of a jail. We've had accommodations at the roof that's enclosed with the fencing, with wire, razor wire. But as far as that being right now, at the stages we are with the money that we're spending currently on the locks, that's further on down the road. And I hate to put you further down the road, but that's.
I much prefer honest answers. I'm not trying to, some of this is how do we help? What do we do? And that's what budgets are for. And when you say it's outside the realm of the budget, it is unless there's a plan. Then it's, well, this is what we would need to do. This is how much it would cost. But to simply say, I've been always wondering about that because again, the mayor spokesman said that they will be making accommodations for those people to go outside, where at what you want to call the workhouse, they can go outside and they got a full gym. My opinion, it's a much better facility. But that was my curious question. Have we made accommodations? And if we haven't, then I guess we're not spending any money on it. And,
I'll make a
people are-
proposal but I want to entertain that, and I think it's worth entertaining. Let me tell you why. Even at the annex, the gym and stuff is not outside, it's actually inside.
No, the
So-
gym's inside. I've been down there. I've
Mhm.
been in the gym. I've been in there with the inmates, talking to them, playing basketball with them.
Mhm.
But the outside is a large outside area where they can go outside that's fenced. It's completely covered, so they do have the ability over there to go outside. So yes, the gym's inside, but it's a full gym. It's not just a little area that's kind of made into a gym. It's actually a full court, nice gymnasium. There's a big difference in it. This isn't budget related, so I'll move on. But my question was, have we made accommodations for the people to come outside since the mayor's office made that statement?
No, but I will get logistics to, and I say logistics because we have to look at the building, the current building here at the CJC, and we have to look and see if it can accommodate such weight. There's a lot of things that go into it, making sure we meet the guidelines to say, okay, weight capacity, some of everything that goes along with it. It's not just a mere say, oh, we're going to take them outside, because for one, we have to have the employees. And right now we're short of staff, but I think that's a great idea to give them some fresh air. However, we'd have to go over to facilities and ask them to do up us a plan to see if it would even be able to absorb the weight capacity to put something on the top of the building.
This will be my last, and it's absolutely budget related. One of the things that I had talked to Heather Taylor about, actually, she talked to me about, and we talked together about potentially getting cameras like the police officers have for the workers. Is that something that you feel is important and maybe should be put in the budget? Roughly, Heather, you could tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we roughly felt it would be around 700,000 a year and need to be somewhat sustainable.
Yes, sir. And I'm pulling up the actual, and I can mail this out to everyone as well. I'm pulling up the actual budget for it. There's an initial cost, but it's billed over 3 years, and it may be 4 years, but I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Okay.
That would be something that's helpful for us. The body worn cameras, I think it'll be a great idea. It'll be something, because we actually talk, and logistically wise, we wanted to say, okay, once you come onto the floors, it activates, or when you're running, it activates. There's a lot of things that go into it, but I think it's a great idea.
So I would say that in this hearing, then you would be asking, and this would be an ask from you, that we would try to come up with an additional roughly $700,000 into the budget, into the jail budget. It's not a prison. We really need it to be a prison in a sense, a better building with outside and all that. But you correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, they're looking for an additional 700,000 a year to
Yes.
fund, which would
Yeah.
fund cameras, body cameras.
So, sir, it would be, the initial offer letter is actually for 5 years, so that 792,000 would be over the time frame of 5 years. Initially, for the first year would be 317,000. I sought body worn camera grants for the Department of Corrections, but they had a cost match, and it would be more expensive in the long run for the city. Savings wise, this is a better option for us. And it comes with a lot of the things that are currently in place under the body worn camera policy that St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department has.
So what is the actual real amount that you're trying for us to try to find?
Yes, sir. So for this year,
For this year, for this next fiscal year?
yes, sir. It would be 317,000. Year 2 would be 118,000, and then year 3 would be 118, and so on for 4 and 5. So this fiscal year would be 317,000.
Okay, so that gives us a target to try to look for, to try to get body cameras for this year, and then it decreases. So we'll try to look to see if we can find that 317,000 to add to the, and Paul, would that have to be by a line item for body cameras, or would we just put that into their general budget? Paul, if you're still there.
Yes, I'm here.
What-
Your question is, if you wanted to add something like that, yeah, you'd have to identify what you'd reduce, and then as well as a line item for where that would be budgeted.
So we would have to create a line item. And can I ask another just dumb question? Since I'm full of dumb questions today. Can't we, I know that it has to be sustainable. So if we're only looking for the 317 this year, can we use that CARES Act money, or the ARCA money, whatever, America? Can that be used this year? And then next year we put in the budget, the line item for the sustainable?
My first reaction would be that, and my message I've been on ARPA has been fairly consistent, is that you do not want to fund recurring costs through ARPA. So that's a slippery slope if you say, we've got this thing that's going to cost us in the years in the ongoing costs, where it's going to cost us in future years. The first year we'll use ARPA to pay for it, and then next year we'll find the money. That's not a good approach. So that's why most of the times when we're talking about ARPA, you want to have impactful type projects, but impactful type projects that are not recurring, so that you're not left holding the bag when ARPA goes away.
Well, what if we fund 200,000 in ARP? I mean, what if we fund since all but 100? Let me think. If we fund 118,000, that's the amount for each year coming up, or 120,000. That's, which seems like might be an easier number to come up to. If we fund that, can we do the balance in the ARPA money? I'm just trying to be creative. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's however you want to do. However that your board wants to make recommendations is up to you.
We won't be making those kinds of recommendations. That is not responsible. And the other part to this conversation is that I would rather see a request that is made in the appropriate manner, not in this type of discussion, and also look at other parts of the public safety budget. And we've already heard one where we're not spending all of the overtime money. Maybe it's there, but I would suggest that the director and the assistant would handle that in the appropriate way to continue to explore and then bring that back with a recommendation that has been also accepted by the mayor's office back to us.
Well, but.
I don't think it's
and-
that you're trying to make it more difficult than it needs
No,
to
I'm
be.
not, I'm not, because
Yeah.
it's
not that
gonna
hard.
be, it's gonna be in my things to do. So I'm gonna be looking.
But it may not need
and
to
I'm
be.
gonna
That's
t-
why I'm trying to make it simpler. And
Well,
it
we
has
have-
to
we
have
have-
more direction from
have-
that. Yeah.
We're gonna have 2 to 3 weeks to do this, not 6 to 12. So in
Sir,
this
I'm talking
budget, I'll be
about,
doing
yeah,
cuts
I'm
and
talking
put
about
that.
asking. I've just made a statement of asking for this response to come back. And that was something we talked about in the beginning when we talked about this process, is as we are dealing with each department, we will be working on resolutions jointly. I don't want to put something on an island out of here and then it's rejected later on, because it doesn't have to be. And I believe that if the more exploration is done in the public safety budget, it's a large budget, that $300,000 could be found. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
And it's easier if they find it and send it to us. It will be much easier because they
Right.
will be making the adjustment.
but I understand, but I also know what we've done. Like every year I've been on this since the day I've been here. And we've always had the departments come in and say, these are needs that we would like filled. And we've always been tasked to try to find them. I don't think we've ever sent back and said, you find it, and if you can't, let us know, because we're in a short time period. It's just, and that's just
time?
I'll
No.
be looking for it. in the
Alderman
budget.
Vaccaro, the statements have already been made by the financial analyst, by the chief of police, and by the assistant, Heather Taylor, that they have some wiggle room. We are working with them, and it's easier for them. They deal with that budget every day. And I don't need to come up with anything new.
They
if
already
that's
made
if that's a strong recommendation,
They've
we
already
can work
made,
that out.
they've already made the statement that they're $3.8 million over budget in overtime. So anyway, I won't, I'm gonna be looking for it, but I'll move on because the meeting will go forever if I don't. So I think it's just a difference of opinion of how we've always done it. I know that we have to say it comes out of this, even if we move it around in public safety, and Paul could tell me if I'm wrong, but we still have to create a line item and we still have to move it from this
And we
area to
will.
that.
And we will. We will.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
We will.
Anyway, I would like to.
It's
try
a
to find
great
that.
idea, and I'm sure we'll be able to facilitate it.
Okay, I'm gonna move on, but thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Howard. Did she leave? Oh, man.
I think she's still there. I apologize for going so long. Her picture's still there. Maybe she just stepped aside.
Okay. Alderwoman Howard, are you still here? She may have stepped away for a moment. We'll come back to her. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a couple of questions. Chief Hayden, with regards to, you mentioned that we're 117 officers down. Can you tell us how many uniformed officers we have budgeted this year? I was a little bit confused in the budget with regards to the uniformed officers. It looked like that total was going down, but there's a couple of different line items here. So forgive me, I know the budget can be a little bit confusing to kind of go through. I'm particularly looking at line item 5102,000, the salaries for uniform positions.
Okay,
I'm hoping,
okay, Alderman Spencer, the commission officer total hasn't gone down,
okay,
okay, but if you're looking at I assume the 1010 budget,
yes.
okay,
Excuse me. Well, the 1110 budget.
1110, the use tax,
Let's see. These are just kind of how you've broken them out by fund. Okay. Well, nonetheless, what I'm interested in is in the total number of uniformed officers that we have budgeted for this next year.
right, which should be exactly the same. As long as you're not, if you eliminate grants, which the grant positions have gone down, but the general fund positions have remained the same. So what the city funded positions have remained the same.
I guess I'm just looking for the number. I'm unfamiliar. I would just would like the full number of uniformed officers that we have targeted for this year. Just, I don't want to overcomplicate things. I just kind of want to have a general understanding of.
So 846 police officers, 82 probationary officers. There's a grant match of 0.6 for the police officers. So police officers would be 846.6, and the probationary officers would be 82.
Okay, so 886 total officers. Are those, and that's uniformed officers? Is that officers on the street, if you will?
Well, some of those officers are in specialized units like homicide and squad, and so
May I interject, please? Give us the total number of officers on the payroll for the city of St. Louis, whether they are in a specialized unit or not. They are officers in the police department. Please give us that total number. It's real simple.
Commissioned officers, 1,245.72. That's
what she's looking for.
number.
Thank you.
Thank you. What was that number? I kind of went out just as you said it.
Okay. The general fund number, right, is for all commissioned officers is $1,245, 245.72.
1,245 officers.
Not here, okay. So when I say commissioned officers, that includes all ranks.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so the being down 117 is being down a little less than 10% of our force.
Right.
Okay. So I would thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking for the total number of officers. When we have and then of those, how many are in special units, roughly speaking? I don't want to go down a dangerous can of worms here, but just so we have a broad understanding of how our police department is staffed, it's kind of so we can speak about it to the general public in very general terms here.
Yeah. Okay.
I know you had provided us at one presentation your chart, and if you could just send that to the committee members and/or all aldermen again, it would be very helpful, because you showed us how many people were sergeants, lieutenants, majors, all of that. And shortly, I think that was during a discussion where you actually put more of the white shirts on the street in different positions other than just, they had to do a little bit more than just supervise. So those numbers would be very helpful.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you,
so-
Madam Chair, especially as it pertains to any shifts that we're expecting in this next year. What I'm really looking for is to be able to articulate any changes in manpower that we're requesting or anticipating for this new year.
And Madam Chair, I will ensure that those are received by the committee.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
It's just a matter of, being able to answer questions when we're in community meetings and being able to discuss it from a general perspective. So that'd be very helpful. My next set of questions is really around the corrections, just in a very general sense. And again, our budget documents, while they're so detailed, can be a little bit confusing. So forgive my questions here if they're rudimentary. But with regards to the corrections budget, I know that we've kind of shifted things out. Broadly speaking, it looks to me like our 2020 budget for corrections was around 23 million. And for 2023, that budget appears to be 35 million. I'm certain that I'm misinterpreting this, and if there could be, if we could clarify that, it'd be very, very helpful. So
Well, for one, you went back to 2020. And now we're going into 2023. I'm just trying to give you some background, because when you do that, okay, so we went from 22 million to 23 to 21 and then to 27 and 22. 22 is when we lost the federal money. So we only had a portion of that left, which absorbed some of the budget. The majority of the budget that you're looking at, that was the significant increase, comes from no federal money. If we were to get that contract back, that would absorb a lot, $6 to $10 million of our budget, which would be very helpful. So if you can facilitate anything, we'd be grateful to you guys in that aspect.
Can you help me understand? So the federal contract, as I understood it, was with the federal government to house those held on federal charges here in our municipal facilities.
Yes.
Are we still holding those held on federal charges in our municipal facility?
Yes and no. Let me explain to you like this. The ones that we were holding just for the feds, we do not hold them anymore. If they come to us by way of probation violation from a city aspect, we do hold them, and they may have a federal hold. However, we don't receive the funding from that. So we're absorbing all the costs. Yes.
Under our previous engagement with the federal government or with the feds, when the second scenario you just described, somebody comes in on a municipal charge or some other kind of probationary issue while they do have a federal charge, and we hold them, did the feds reimburse us in that case, in that secondary case?
Negative, because the reason why we have them is for us, not for them. They may tag on to something. Recently, we had someone on a violation, a probation violation, but they also had a federal charge. Well, they were complete with their probation from us. We had we were holding them federally. Now, I don't think, because they were still on their what feds came back and said, hey, we're going to run it concurrently with you guys, is what he's with the city of St. Louis for. So we're basically holding them for free.
But what prisoners, if we were to reinstate an agreement with the feds, would we be reimbursed for? That's $7 million.
We could get anywhere between $7 and $10 million. You guys have already, and you let me know if I'm wrong, because I'm navigating into waters that were before me, because I just came September of 2021. You guys voted to close the annex. If we had the annex online, and if you guys hadn't voted to close it, we could utilize that for federal housing, and that would increase what we could bring in as revenue. However, my hands are like this. So therefore, I have to go with what you guys have given me, provided to me. And so we don't get any federal revenue in that manner.
So can you help me understand, help the committee understand the number of people that we're housing now versus a year ago before, when that contract was in place? Do we have more or less people that we're housing?
We have less. We almost have zero of federal. The reason why we may have federal is by way of them having a charge locally, and the feds tack on to maybe, say for instance, we arrest them. I'm just giving you a scenario. We arrest them for having a firearm, and the feds come in and say you were in possession of a felony with a firearm because you had a felony conviction. They come in and they tack that on with us, but they have to deal with their primary charge first. So we're still holding them on our charge, you see, and they haven't dealt with the federal charge. So we're not, in essence, we're not going to get any money from that because we still have them on our charge.
Would we previously, with an arrangement with the feds, would we have gotten money from that situation?
Not from that particular situation, but if we had the arrangement we did have with them, if we were to hold them primarily for federal, we could get anywhere from $7 to $10 million, and that would help us significantly with everything that goes on in CJC. A lot of programs, a lot of things that go on in the community for the city. It could be utilized for a lot of things.
Are there folks that we are holding now for whom we could be reimbursed if we were to have an agreement with the feds in place?
Now, not that I'm aware of.
So
if we were to get that agreement back, we could start housing them and begin to receive a lot more money.
So with the amount, it was my understanding that the contract with the feds reimbursed the city a small fraction of what it costs to house them. I think $25 a day or something of that nature.
No, it was significantly more.
More than
when
the
I say,
state.
yes, more. The state may
Excuse me,
be
the
about
state
30.
has a small, you're right. Okay, so and then the feds had 78. I think it was 78. Now this has been almost a year since I've really been digging into these numbers, so forgive my error there. But I think if I remember correctly, the feds reimbursed
Now,
somewhere.
let me put some things into context. In dealing with the other municipalities, I found that we were kind of on the lower end when we were housing the feds. So when we do renegotiate some things, it would cause an increase. Why? Because we got an increase in food costs, we got an increase in everything. So it would help us significantly if we were to get that contract out, but that's not my lane. I can't determine that. I can't even saying something we can go forth with that.
Okay, so the argument would really be that if we housed additional folks that were held on federal charges here in our facility, it would help the overall cost of the facility. And the argument to absolve that contract initially was to be able to close the workhouse in its entirety. But we have not been able to, I'm not fully educated on why that hasn't happened.
Okay, let me give you a
I don't want to make it
quick but yet direct answer. You guys voted to close it. However, we have to have an avenue to house these individuals when certain floors are being renovated. We need that avenue because the part of the annex, the new part, it's already has the new locks. It has everything that we're converting over. So you guys spent, I'm going by what was told to me, about $8 million to revamp it. It has been revamped. It is up to par. And I'm talking about the new part. It can be utilized, and we're trying to use it minimal, but we're still using it only because we have keep-aways from separations. We have everything that goes on within the CJC that needs, well, we need that avenue. So therefore, we can't just completely close it. not with the renovation of the locks going on. So it's just, and then they wanted for us to give up 2 floors here recently. That can't be done. I was trying to do it so that the contractors could come in and do what they need to do, and then give it back to us. But that's an 8 to 9 month, maybe a year process, maybe a year and a half, because we're having supply chain issues. So I hate to give you the runaround, but I'm trying to give you a quick synopsis of why we're at where we're at.
No, this is helpful. I mean, I am just asking questions as they come here. So I appreciate kind of going into this, and I don't want to spend too much more time on that issue. I was just more or less curious. The increase in the budget for this is so significant. It's almost $10 million over the last couple of years, and trying to understand how we could address that. The $8 million spent on the annex do you know the year that was done?
No, ma'am, it was before me.
Okay.
It was over a 2.5 period of time. And that would have been, I want to say it started in 18, latter part of 17. And it included everything.
You just went on mute.
Madam Chair, you just went on mute and you went blank.
I'm sorry, I cut off. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, so it included the privacy showers, the new toilets, some renovations for not renovations, but new air conditioning systems, a number of things that were required, have been asked for. And I think it brought it to a place where it was extremely adequate, much better than, as far as I'm concerned, much better than the downtown facility. And the part that they were not using, they were going to wait until either funds could be addressed through a grant process, or we had some additional funds in our capital budget to start renovating the other part, which then could have been used even to house more federal people. So,
Madam Chair, part of the old part was done. So some of that some of those funding was done, and it is really nice in the old part.
It is, but that's one of the challenges that we had, because the story that was being told was not totally true, and there was no way to get around it. We all know that it was an adequate facility. Every indication of anytime you can walk down a hallway and see your shadow on the floor, that's a very well-kept facility, because you can't do that with a one-night cleaning. It would have had to been kept up all along. So that it is unfortunate, and we will continue to work on this challenge, and we have to deal with it from a government perspective of what is best for the city budget, and most especially what is best for those who we house. So unfortunately, the conversation is not over. And I'm sorry to interrupt on you, Alderwoman Spencer, but that was one of my pet peeves, because I spent a lot of time in that facility, and I knew that the stories that were being told were not true.
Well, Madam Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk through this. I know the intentions with everyone involved in closing it and having those discussions were, came from a good place, and in an attempt to right some wrongs, significant wrongs. And, the more information we have about where we are, and the more mindful and open-minded we can be about how to move forward, I think the better off we will all be. And I really appreciate the frankness with which we're talking about it from a budgetary perspective. And it's very helpful to just understand where we are a year later and try to figure out together the best course forward. So I just appreciate that opportunity here today. And I have, my questions have been answered, and so I will yield.
Thank you very much. Alderwoman Howard, are you back?
I am.
All right,
And-
dear, go right ahead.
My questions were on the same line as the Alderwoman for the 20th, and I guess to dig a little deeper, and I won't belabor this, is that we are looking at last year fiscal 22 compared to, we are $8 million more. Now, what was the $8 million? Is that the total amount of more because we are not getting the federal money, or is there other, is that plus the federal money would have been how much?
The federal money would have been about 7 million.
Okay, so,
Depending on how many we housed, it could have been
Right.
more and we could have got more. But 7 million, yes. So we're
Okay.
pretty much, most of our medical budget is, was taken up or being paid by, we were using for the federal money. So that's where you see the big significant, like I said, it was about 300,000 of it that went toward, that was not included the medical. I'm talking about that contributed to the increase was the food. And I not to bore you with the
No.
details behind it, but just so you know, I found out there were some fillers and things like that in the food, and I wanted to ensure that we were providing something nutritious, but yet, portion control, things like that. So they came along and created a different menu for us, and I appreciate that because it did kind of help. We had a lot of people, we had a lot of food being thrown away because they were using fillers. So we had to go and kind of revamp our menu.
and I guess it's a little more costly, but more healthful.
Yes. The food
And-
costs went up tremendously anyway.
Well, as we all know that go to the grocery store, that it's went up tremendously. And then if you're trying to be better nutrition, that adds a little bit to the cost too. And I think that's proactive of you because that what goes in, has a lot to do with your mental state also. When you talk about the holistic treatment of people. So, and you are, just for clarification, do we have a budget for the workhouse / annex, whatever we're calling it today?
It's minimal. I think we're getting some costs, and I have to be honest with you, to maintain the air and things like that, doing preventative maintenance. So we do have some costs, even though it's not budgeted, we'll absorb it in our facility cost with the CJC since they've merged. They've actually deleted 632, which was the annex budget. So everything we are absorbing is going to be under the CJC. I didn't know if you guys know that, so I might as well put it out there.
Well, we don't see it here, so.
Yeah.
And I guess the final question is, how many inmates do we have currently at the CJC and at the annex / workhouse?
Currently, we have about 24 at the annex. Here, I keep up more with the annex because I'm trying to make sure that we're all on the same page. But here we have about, sorry, I'm not prepared. Give me some grace, please.
That's fine.
We have 504 here. And we have 25 at the annex, 24 at the annex. The only reason we have those are because they're females. So that I know the question is coming, so I'm putting that out there. And because of the construction, it allows us to be able to house the females in a different location so they don't have any kind of mixture with them.
For their safety and, okay.
Yes.
And so how many floors do you have open now at CJC?
2, 4, and 5. So three floors.
Okay, with one being still worked on, it's almost finished. Okay, when do you anticipate that'll be ready to go?
Any day now. They're just troubleshooting some things that came up last minute. And I'm hopeful real soon, like this week.
Okay, thank you. I know these weren't all budget related, but I appreciate your candidness and your willingness to be forthcoming. Thank you so much. That's all.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd.
I have no questions. I just have a comment. And it's to the people that were pushing to close the workhouse. And I don't think that they realized that the impact was, it wasn't so much in closing it, it was to improve the conditions. And so we have that, as they call annex workhouse, whatever it is today. That building was allowed it to be upgraded because of that. And so it helped the people that were in there. So I think it was a good thing. I don't think people should be packed in like sardines. I think they still have quality of life issues that need to be addressed. But I just feel that this is just an ongoing conversation, and people continuously keep attacking, and they don't understand that it was a lot of improvements made. And as Alderwoman Davis, I was one that went through and saw the programs they had offered. And it wasn't a planned visit. It was just, we just went over there. And the conditions were nothing what people made them out to be. And it was just heartening to hear people tell these stories of terror that wasn't there. So when you have people that have the opportunity to use their talents, and when you have new order people that literally were on the ground trying to find whatever people were saying what was wrong and it wasn't there, it made a big difference. You know, it made people look at things differently. So I just want people to understand that as elected officials, we're not the mean boogeymans that attack and mistreat people. Our focus was the improvement and betterment of people to get them ready to go back into society. And so I think that workhouse did that, where it let them express themselves and those people to become valuable, to come back into our society. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alderman Oldenburg.
I have no questions, Madam Chair, not at this time.
Thank you. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Thank you. Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions, but I just want to make a statement. I was part of that last group that visited down at the annex and the workhouse. I guess is that the place that we visited? You were our tour person or guide, Miss Clemens Abdullah. You were there, and you at the time, I think they were still doing, I guess you could say, rehab on the sales, and we weren't, I guess you could say, we didn't tour sales that actually held prisoners or people, and we just visited the areas that were under renovation, I guess. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. And it was here at CJC, not at the annex.
Okay, CJC. See, I'm new at this. I don't know. This was my first visit there, and I just wanted to see what took place, you know, at that level. And as I said, you were an excellent tour guide, if that's what you, if that's what we can call you, but you were very informational. And I just want to say that what we saw where they had put some kind of guard or cage where they could not get to the windows, which was what was plastered all over the news the year that they had broken the windows and so forth. But now there's something in place where they can't get to the windows now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I just wanted to make it say, oh, I do have one question. Or have they moved back into the facilities yet? Or is that still coming?
No, ma'am. I'm still waiting. They had to troubleshoot some technical difficulties they had on the electrical panel. And as soon as that's done, which may be this week or early next week, it was due. And then at the last minute, they said, hold up. So I said, okay, I'd rather them take their time than to give me something faulty.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you guys have fixed the problems with them being able to open the locks to the sales. So I commend you on the job that you're doing.
And I appreciate you guys approving the funding for it because it's going to help out the staff as well as the detainees as well.
Okay, thank you very much. That's it, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Vaccaro, I see you have your hand up again.
Yeah, I do. Just, I want to make a quick statement.
Sure.
We, the Board of Aldermen, did not vote to close the workhouse. I want to be clear about that. What we voted for was to look into if it was a good idea or not. The mayor's office took the funding away. So I want to be clear about that. When you say you all are the ones that voted to close it, that's absolutely false. Okay? And I will ask your opinion. What do you think is the better facility? And it's not in this thing. So if you don't want to answer, don't answer. But I know the answer. But I do take some offense to you saying that we're the ones that voted to close that. No, we worked hard to make sure there were improvements. We've worked hard to make sure it's safe for everyone. I've been in both facilities, toured both facilities. I'm not going to get into whatever, but I do take somewhat offense when you say, no, you all are the ones that closed it, more or less acting like it isn't a good idea. I can tell you not right now. I was not, nor do I know of anyone on this board that said, gee, we just should close it. We said, if it made sense. We didn't think transferring prisoners all the way out of the state so their families couldn't see them makes sense. Everything you're saying makes sense. That the federal program should be here, that we should have both facilities open, that we would have the money, that we weren't losing money, all the falsehoods. But please, when you say it was the Board of Aldermen that chose to close that, to send people out of state and do all this, you're flat wrong. And I know you weren't here for all that, but go back to the tapes and look. Madam Chair, thank you for letting me at least get that out. I realize that's not budget related, but I just couldn't let that stand. Anyway, thank you.
Alderman Vaccaro, you know I'm going to put clarity to what you just said.
Yes, absolutely.
The board bill that we all voted on, it indicated that we would have a plan in place. So that meant that we needed to look at the facility, we needed to determine what was needed, and the plan of need would determine when or if it would be closed. And so that's what we voted for. Unfortunately, some others had ideas without consulting the directors of the facilities and made a decision to simply close it, create their own budget without any knowledge or experience of running facilities, making recommendations to furlough people without understanding all the various processes and determination for how you hire correctional officers and what their duties are, and without having the knowledge of how you house people, because you have to make decisions in housing that keeps people separate and safe. And we have no knowledge of that, nor did anyone involved in making those decisions, because again, the directors were not consulted. So that takes it all away for the public to have all clarity. And I know Alderman Vaccaro and probably me and a number of others were just extremely concerned because due diligence in processes like this must be thought through thoroughly.
Madam Chair.
I see your hand up, sir. I was just about to get to you.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
You guys probably have noticed I've been kind of quiet. I have
I know
done
we pushed
over
that button.
10
I'm happy. Go ahead.
I've done over 10 years on Ways and Means. And, you know, sometimes I become very talkative, and I'm just encouraged by some of the questions that some of my colleagues have been asking, because I have been known to ask 2,000 questions and go on and on and on. But one thing you said that I just really want to appreciate, and Alderman Vaccaro, is, again, bringing clarity to the role of the Board of Aldermen when it came to suggesting that the workhouse be closed, because far too long misinformation have been put out there, and we've been accused of saying we want this done. One thing about the legislative body that we have to take seriously is how the work gets done.
Sure.
And you just nailed it. And I just hope everybody heard exactly what you said, as far as we voted on a process to close the workhouse if it warranted. And unfortunately, people took that narrative and created a whole different narrative about how we said we want to close it. And it was just so unfair to the Board of Aldermen. So I just want to just thank you. It just made me smile when I heard you bring clarity to that, because far too often we put out this misinformation and we do all this infighting, and it's really unnecessary. If we all just kind of collaboratively work with each other. In your comment about finding the $300,000, I think it is prudent on the Public Safety Department. If they made the recommendation, the amendments go much smoother. So I've heard nothing but good things about Heather Taylor and what she has been doing and looking at grants and really studying what's going on in the Public Safety Department. So I have full faith and confidence that she and her team will find it. And if they can't, then we'll help them find it. So thank you.
I agree 100%.
Thank you. And I'm writing up something right now for all of you about the body worn camera policy that we're trying to put in place at CJC now.
I thank you so much. Heather, who's your next group?
If we could have the Excise Commissioner, Mr. Miles McDonald.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I need you guys to take your hands down. Jeffrey, there you go. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Our budget is pretty straightforward, line item budget. It's we're charged under the city charter with monitoring and administering St. Louis City Ordinance 68536, Title 14, which addresses the issuance and administration of liquor licenses within the city of St. Louis. We have a total authorized strength of 7. Only 4 of the positions are filled. We're having trouble filling the other 3 positions due to the low pay, basically. It's that about describes what we do. I'd like to open it up at this time for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Boyd.
Yes, thank you. Miles, thank you for all the good work you do at the Excise. Again, I've heard nothing but fairness from you and how you really try to work with people to show them how to do it right than just penalizing them saying you didn't qualify. So I really appreciate that, because we're in the business of want to attract businesses, not deter people. Since I've been here in 19 years, Excise has almost always been understaffed. And I think in a way that's kind of disservice to the community. And I'm just wondering, have you approached personnel to talk about the salary disparities so that we can hire some people? Because that's what I keep hearing from a lot of departments. People don't want to work for the city because of the salary disparity, but yet every year we have millions of dollars left over in personnel. millions. And I just don't get it. And help me understand, what do we need to do to fix it?
Well, what we've done, Alderman, and thank you for your comments. I'd like to add at this time, the people that deserve the credit here are Liquor Control Supervisor Gwen Cherry, Executive Secretary Mildred Bell Gibbons, and Liquor Control Officer Donna Wood. They deal with it every day. We have something pending right now. It was approved by Dr. Ison and forwarded to the Personnel Department to get more parity with the neighborhood improvement specialists. They make a good deal more than we do, and they're assigned to wards. We're assigned citywide. We just don't have money. What we have initiated also that I think is going to help with our mission is we now have access, thanks to Heather Taylor, to the problem property database. So if something is a problem property, they come in to apply for a license, we're not going to process that application until that problem property status has been abated. To go ahead and license a place that's already a problem property, I think there's a rebuttable presumption that the place is already a detriment to the neighborhood. So it doesn't make much sense to go ahead and give them a liquor license on top of their nuisance status. And we also have access now to the Buildings Division permit St. Louis process, which means we can determine quickly whether or not they have a legitimate occupancy permit as the liquor license moves forward, or they're applying for some other type of permit. And that's kind of about where we're at right now.
That sounds very exciting to hear. Again, thinking differently, thinking smarter, being more efficient. In saying what you're saying about having access, it'd be really nice if you guys had access to the collective revenue system some kind of way, so that people didn't have to keep running around City Hall to renew business license or liquor license and all of that stuff. That would be awesome. So I know that's a whole different entity, but I just hope there's some kind of way that all the county offices, all the city offices, that we can communicate, together on the same system, block out. I mean, there's certain information that maybe you don't need, and so you don't get a chance to see it, but you have access to what you do need. And I've been saying that for years, and I don't understand why that's so difficult. So with all the work Heather Taylor is doing, can she move the needle on that? Ms. Taylor, can you move the needle on that one?
Yes, sir. We are actually, that's a part of the problem properties task force that we convened last month, and the Buildings Division working better with Mr. McDonald, Commissioner McDonald. So we're working on that as well, just to make sure that all the different systems and entities under Department of Public Safety are always speaking with each other and keeping our elected officials and everyone informed about what's going on, because that we have to improve that. There's no doubt.
But let me ask you, have you talked with the collective revenue office and like the license collector's office to see if there's some way that, the excise can access a piece of the information to keep customers from, again, running from the 4th floor to the 1st floor?
That's what we will be doing.
Okay.
I think that's a great suggestion to add to this. And I'll definitely follow up with that on behalf of the director to make sure that we're consistent with, customers and people that come in, so they don't have to go to 3 different floors. Thank
you so much.
You're welcome.
No further questions or comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Vaccaro.
Very shortly, Miles, I know that you do a good job, and I appreciate we work together. How many, I guess I got confused in not the number of employees, but how many liquor control agents that go out and actually inspect places and write violations? How many of those do you have?
Right now, we only have a liquor control supervisor and 1 liquor control officer, and their time is pretty well taken up with the volume of work in processing the license.
So
those investigations, they have to verify all the signatures, in the petition circle. And that's a very, very labor intensive process.
So how many agents maybe I'm posing it wrong. How many agents, I'm not talking about those in the office, how many agents do you have that actually go out, and randomly inspect, bars and that to make sure they're in compliance?
Well, we have, we have two right now that can do it, but we just don't really, I haven't assigned anybody to do that kind of work because of all the
Other stuff.
backlog of what we have.
So really right now, there's nobody really checking the bars. So is it that you're having, the positions are there and you're having trouble hiring them?
Yeah.
Or the positions are not there?
No, we have two vacancies for liquor control officers that are not filled. One was filled and the gentleman just quit earlier this month.
Really?
Because of the pay. And then
What does it pay?
I believe the starting salary now, I don't have it on the top of my head, but it was like, I got it from 31,000 a year to like 36,000 a year. It's higher than that now. I think it's about 41,000.
It's about 41,000. And well, anyway, I really have no other questions. I just saying that we can't fill that. So, I mean, I think it would help. And I know rain was way out of control on multiple levels, but I also think some of the smaller neighborhood bars get out of control that don't make the media that rain does. And it would be nice if they were out randomly at least, looking into that. But Miles, I appreciate all you do. So I'm not here to complain. I was just here to ask. Anyway, Madam Chair, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderwoman Howard stepped away for a moment. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It looks, I actually, Alderman Vaquero's questions were along mine. And, I agree that enforcing liquor laws is so vital to our public safety and ensuring that you have the adequate staff to do that. I would be supportive of measures to make sure that that you have adequate staff to be able to proactively go out and make sure that our liquor establishments are acting lawfully. Because once they start to go outside, veer outside of that, nothing but problems occur. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd.
No questions.
Okay. Alderman Oldenburg.
No questions right now, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Middlebrook, I think she left for a moment. And Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm listening to all that's being said, and I guess you guys are tired of me saying I'm new at this, but I'm new at this, and I just wanted to know, is there someone that monitors how many establishments that are allowed to sell liquor within a certain area? Is there how can I say it? Is there a format for that?
Yes. The only limitation, Alderwoman, is placed on the ward by ward by the alderman through a moratorium. There is no, in the state of Missouri or the city of St. Louis, there are no capped out number of liquor licenses that can be issued. That's why if you go to places like San Francisco, California, they have a capped number. So if you go out of business, you don't worry about leasing it to somebody else or selling the building to somebody else. They have to buy your liquor license, the next person that comes in. And some of those liquor licenses go for several $100,000. And that's not the case in St. Louis or the state of
Right. Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to say to you, Commissioner, that I have nothing but praise for you and your small staff because you still do monumental work. It is absolutely incredible.
Thank you,
You
Madam Chair.
you stay on top of things. You keep your ear to the ground. I like that because when I call to complain about something, you're very aware, and that's very critical for us. But somehow we've got to figure out how to get either get folks hired by increasing that salary and or employing some of our other departments to help you. And the first one that comes to mind for me is the problem property officers. Because on occasions, if you wanted to create some inspections to be done in a particular area, that's what they could help with. So I'll leave that up to you guys over there under public safety to think about maybe some other ways to help, because we do know that we've got some parts of the city that are nothing but trouble because of their bars. And we need to really get on top of it. But again, thank you for everything. And I hope that we'll find a way to bring some remedy in the near months, not years, but the near months. So Heather, if you'd like to go to your next department.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe it would be the Neighborhood Stabilization Team, and I am here to provide input on the Neighborhood Stabilization Team.
Okay.
And I have to pull up my file really quickly. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. So in this year's budget, one of the things that really stands out is the $90,000 increase to the budget. That is going to be for the AT&T Cloud call center virtual agents that we're implementing in Neighborhood Stabilization Team. So when we have a citizen, one of your constituents, they call in, they have a question about refuge, they have a request there, that there's a virtual agent that's available to take those calls. So that's the increase. We are currently meeting with our customer service reps. I believe it's June the 1st and June the 2nd with the in-person meeting with them to kind of address the AT&T Cloud Center. That's the center that's going to be throughout the city. But more importantly, it's specific to Neighborhood Stabilization Team because we have our customer service reps, 1, and our customer service rep 2 that handle those calls. So the changes in this budget, I think, the big difference was that 90,000 that was added to that budget. We requested an actual supervisor, customer service supervisor, to assist with managing the staff that's there. And we will have a customer service representative supervisor the next fiscal year if this is approved. Right now, our customer service team bureau, they handle about 85,000 service requests. They have limited staffing. They have currently, there will be 8 staff there with the inclusion of 1 additional person to this section. Our neighborhood improvement specialist, we will have we asked for 28, but we will have 24 for this section, with the total staffing in this section beginning the next fiscal year, if the budget is approved, will be 41 people, which will include a secretary and the neighborhood improvement specialist. Another important development there that I wanted to alert everyone to, there is no money coming out of the budget for that, but we do have a review due to the changing of the downsizing of the Board of Aldermen to 14 wards. We're trying to review what's the best practices to continue the services that we're providing the city. We're also, again, and I've mentioned this before, we have, and this is not related to the budget, but it's important to how we address how our NISs are responding to neighborhood stabilization needs in your wards, and specifically this problem properties task force that we convene. They're involved in it, and we're trying to see how we can best utilize the current staff that we have going forward. But the increases in the budget here are mainly due to adding an additional customer service representative and the inclusion of the customer service representative supervisor, who we desperately need there, and then the AT&T Cloud Center virtual agent service, so that we won't have customers online waiting to receive service. They can actually hit a button, press the correct button, it'll get them to a virtual agent, and that'll help assist with us receiving the calls and getting them out to the appropriate sections.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the gist of what's happening with the neighborhood stabilization team. And if you have any questions, I'm ready for them, I think.
Okay. Well, Alderman Boyd, would you like to get your questions in quickly?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Heather, this is a personnel question, but it's a kind of a yes or no. Is Essence Owen still working for the Public Safety Department as the director of CSB, neighborhood improvement or whatever? Because I'm just confused. I keep getting these emails sent back to me.
Yes, and that's all that I can provide relative to. Thank you.
No problem. Because I think she does phenomenal work. I don't know what's going on. I'm not gonna get into all that, but okay. I like what you're saying as far as you know, the neighborhood improvement specialist, and when we downsize, you're thinking forward. Because some of my thoughts was, yeah, we're downsizing to 14, but that doesn't mean that we don't still need help. You know, so reorganizing neighborhood improvement specialists by neighborhoods, you know, maybe a suggestion. And so then you may end up with an alderman may have at least 2 and sometimes maybe 3, depending on the sliver of how that ward is carved out, you know, neighborhood improvement specialist service. Full transparency, aldermen have had a lot of issues with neighborhood improvement specialists. It just seems like you just can't find a real good one. And when you find a good one, they're gone. And so I don't know if it's that we just don't communicate effectively with what, you know, some of the demands of our constituents are, so that we can have more problem solving going on, or what. But I just kind of want to put that out there as a comment. I think neighborhood improvement, you know, that department is definitely, you know, needed. And then you have the Citizen Service Bureau. I like what you're saying about virtual communications, but virtual can mean different things to different people. That could just mean somebody in Asia is answering a phone call. It could mean a bot is answering, like a chat bot. You know, so can you just explain what does virtual mean in this case?
Yes, sir. So it will be an automated system, and we will have the means to follow up on the actual request that's put in, so that we can direct them directly to where they need to go. It's non-emergency, and sometimes the calls come in and they are for matters that should be addressed by St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department instead of the Customer Service Bureau. So we wanted to have an automated system, and it's ongoing. We're literally in the process of doing the training, trying to see what best practices are with it. And it could change. It is an automated, a virtual agent that directs the call when they're not available on the weekends, things like that as well.
So it's one of those push 1 for this, push 9 for this, push 12 for that. Is it one of those? Oh my God.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
because it's limited staffing. Unfortunately, there's limited staffing, and just as Mr. Commissioner McDonald mentioned, we have to have a review of that staff to get, you know, it's hard to maintain staffing there as well. For the number of 18,000 calls are a lot of calls. Yeah. 85,000 calls are a lot of calls.
I know it's just, I'm not trying to be nitpicky. It's just so impersonal. It's just so frustrating. I absolutely hate those systems, especially when you get up to about push number 6. And then you push the wrong button. Oh my God. Then you got to just redial basically. Wow. Let me ask you this, because I was kind of getting a little bit excited at first when you talk about virtual, because, you know, a lot of times you go on these websites and then this chat thing pops up and say, hey, I'm here if you need any help. And sometimes you could just chat with them real quick and get an answer, and you don't have to, you know, be on hold for 15 minutes, you know, trying to listen to a live person. So have you guys actually considered something like that for people who are technology savvy, especially the young people?
What we're doing right now, we're going through the steps. So the recommendations that you have here, I will bring them up during the actual implementation process. It isn't complete, that's for sure, but we are going through what the best practices are, and I can bring that forward when we meet again. Specifically, our expert here would be Ms. Rhonda Quinn. She's a customer service representative too. This is her area, and I don't want to actually speak out of turn. I have a general knowledge of what's happening, but in more detail, I can connect with her. And if you have a list of questions that you want me to ask specifically with what we can do, I can connect directly to the AT&T Cloud Customer Service Center representative.
Well, I just like to recommend explore that. You know, if you want to chat with somebody, then you don't have to really, you know, wait on hold for somebody. But also, I would like to encourage whoever it is coming up with the fix is no more than 4. No more than push number 4, because then it just gets so aggravating, and people, I know I hang up. When I get to 4 past 4, I just hang up. I just keep trying to push 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, hope somebody answer the phone. So that's just my thought and my recommendation. So thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And I'll make sure that we ask these, and then I'll reach back out to you.
Okay.
All right. Alderman Vaccaro.
No real questions, just a statement very fast is, I know Jeffrey said not all of them are good, that neighborhood, but I will tell you that our neighborhood improvement specialist is like the Energizer Bunny. And I mean, she just goes and goes and goes and goes. I mean, it's I've gotten calls at 11 o'clock at night. She'll be somewhere going, well, I'm out here and I'm observing this, you know, I mean, so we have the Energizer Bunny. She's very good. So I'm glad to see they're still in the budget this year. I had concerns about where they're going to go with that, you know, but I'm glad to see that. So anyway, I just putting that out there. No real questions other than that. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions at this time, just support for the department here and the work they do.
All right. Thank you. Alderman Oldenburg.
No further questions at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All righty. Alderwoman Evans.
No further questions at this time. Appreciate the job that you're doing, and keep it up.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I'm just happy to hear some of the new innovations that you're looking at to implement, because they are very much needed. And again, as you look at how we will retool when we're down to 14 wards, I think it's really critical to understand that you even have some wards, they need 3 because there's just so much work that needs to be done. And it's something to look at, to deploy people by need instead of by this, what I consider to be outdated way of doing it, just assigning one to each ward. So I appreciate all of that. And I do appreciate the fact that as you move forward, there's also a lot of other things that those that are left in that department could be attached to other problems under public safety. And for instance, the excise department. So it's a lot of things to be looked at. And I can tell from this presentation today that you all are open, that you are thinking outside the box, and that is what is needed at this point. And most especially hearing from the residents. You know, I tell my residents all the time that the NIS belongs to them, not to me. That's you. That position, that person belongs to you. And over the years, I'm at the point now, which I love because that's how it should be, is they call that person before they call me, because that's about direct services. And hopefully we can get that message out throughout the city so that we can get even more done in a much more expeditious way. I know a lot of people think that the alderperson has an AK-47, a licensed clinical degree, a bank account with an ATM card to solve other problems, and a shoulder to cry on. I wish I had all of that, but on most days, I can just refer, and that's it. So thank you all for what you do. And we know it's difficult, and we know sometimes we are difficult to deal with. Would you like to close with any other statements? And before you do that, Heather, I meant to look to see Chief Hayden or Lieutenant Colonel Zach. Are either one of you or both still on?
Yes, ma'am, I'm still on.
I wanted to definitely give you an opportunity to close out with any additional statements that either one of you had. And I wanted to, again, welcome the interim position for Lieutenant Colonel Zach, because as he has witnessed over the years, that is not an easy position, being the chief. Go right ahead, Chief Hayden.
No, ma'am, no, thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. It's been an honor to serve this board of all the persons, and it's I've been here since 1987, and it is again the honor of a lifetime to serve as chief, and I'm I know for a fact that Chief Sack is extremely capable young man, and I think you will find it a pleasure to work with him as well. But I certainly have enjoyed working with all of you.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Colonel Zach?
Yeah, he had to step out and go to another meeting. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And wait a minute, let me get some more hands up here. I wanted to also say to you, Chief Hayden, I've known you the entire time you've been in service for our city. And I've watched you over the years, and there's no one who could have served any better than you have. You are always, no matter what position you're in, always courteous to the public, caring on another level for other human beings. And you really cared about, if only your officers knew, and I think a lot of them do know, because you're a spiritual man. And so you put the right person in charge over you.
Yes,
and I know that fact, okay? And so that makes a lot of difference too, and how people think about you, how they interact with you, and how they work for and with you. So I want to just thank you for all your service, and I hope that you have an opportunity to enjoy retirement. Some people retire and they don't enjoy it. I hope you have a chance to enjoy it.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that, Madam Chairman. I really do. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. I have two hands up and I can't find you. Who is it?
08 is one.
All right, sir, go right ahead.
I just wanted to say, since this is last budget hearing, I've known I met Chief Hayden when he was the major at North Patrol. He had always been, an easygoing guy to communicate with. We've only had one incident, and I just don't bite my tongue very often and not challenge things that I just disagree with. But at the end of the day, I think he's been a very fair man. What I liked about him was he showed a lot of compassion. He shows a lot of compassion for the men and women that's under his command. And you don't see that a lot of times. A lot of times leaders are just so hardcore, and I've been accused of that, been having that military background for 23 years. And people think I don't have feelings, but I do have feelings. Just like everybody else, I tell people I'm not a robot. I do have feelings. And a lot of times the chief expresses feelings. He shows the public that, hey, he's human, he cares, he's compassionate. And he's the fourth chief since I've been down here. And all I can say is when people want to be the chief of police, be careful what you ask for, because it's a hard job. It is a very difficult job. And I just couldn't imagine being a police. I just wouldn't want it. I probably might want to be maybe the assistant chief or something, but I don't want to be that guy up there that got to take all the bullets, because that's a tough job. But I just want to thank him, and I certainly appreciate, all he's done for the community. I'm sure he's not going to stop like the rest of them. No. He's going to retire. He's going to find some other job somewhere to make somebody else safe, because it's in his DNA. That's just what they do. And so again, Chief, I salute you and I appreciate you. May God speed.
Very much appreciated, Alderman. I really appreciate you. Thank you for your kind words.
You're welcome.
Okay. All hands that are up, just chime in one at a time.
I think Heather Taylor had her hand up before mine.
Okay.
Yes, I want to also thank Chief Hayden for his service forever. He's been here forever to the city of St. Louis as well. And I want to also go down this rabbit hole because I did not mention this. And remember, I'm new to this whole ways and means and budget. We also have a deficiency with overtime in the budget for the neighborhood stabilization team. In 2020, they had $57,000 in the budget. And this year they have zero. And that's something that we need consideration for the staff. They are under Fair Labor Standards Act. They are required to have time and a half over 40 hours as non-exempt employees. So that's something that we would like to consideration for with this budget right now. So they have it now because we made a transfer request within that budget to give them, to make sure they're getting overtime there. So I wanted to address that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I just, Jeffrey, your hand is still up. You still want to talk? Where'd he go? Okay.
Well, he probably just forgot to take it down.
Okay.
I know he had to leave.
Oh, okay. I just want to thank, I'm going to call him, let's see. I have, when I first met you, you were over on Union at the 8th District meetings that you would have. I would attend those meetings and got to know you as a very caring person. You were easy to approach when you had problems, and you did all that you could to solve the problems that we brought to you as constituents. And I just want to say that you're going to be greatly missed. I don't know. if I see you out in the street, I'm gonna harass you, okay?
Please do.
In a good way. But yes, appreciate you. May you enjoy your retirement and have fun. That's the thing. Do things that you want to do with family.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
Yes, ma'am. I certainly appreciate it. I do remember you back from those early days, and I recognize you very early on as a very concerned citizen, and then you became Alderwoman. So I was very understanding and proud of you for that as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm through, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Were there any other speakers, please? Go right ahead. Hearing none, I want to thank you, Heather, for monitoring this session, this particular part of the Public Safety Department, and we're looking forward to our next session.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Members of the board, I'm sorry, board, members of the committee, we have actually come through this a lot sooner than I thought we would for today. And we don't have any members that need to be excused. All members of the committee were present at some point. And if there are any other items of discussion or recommendations or responses that you need to make, I'm going through the committee list very quickly, and you can do that before we adjourn. Alderman Boyd, are you still with me? I thought you had to leave.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Vaccaro. Okay. Alderwoman Spencer.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Oldenburg. And Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing else to say during this meeting.
Okay. Well, I thank you all for your being present today. I want to share with you that the clerk is working on, I think we had 3 additions that we asked for to come before us. He's working on getting those scheduled, and look forward to seeing the new scheduling coming out in your Google Drive. And we can look forward to Monday morning for our next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.